Hey guys, what is going on? Jurgen from ZurGrinoSports here, and today I'm coming at you with the January 18th edition of Raw Review. Just before we get into the video, quick self-plug time. If you would like to support me in the channel, you can do so over on Patreon. It will be the first link in the description, so if you are able to and you would like to support me in the channel, that would be great. If not, that's a-okay. Also, follow my Twitter. That's also in the description. And at the end of the video, if you liked what you heard in the video and stuff like that, be sure to like and subscribe and all that stuff. But without further ado, let's get into the Raw review. Not great. Not great. Raw, for whatever reason, is just continuing this trend of not being very good. There were one or two highlights for me personally, but for the most part, it was another weak show from Raw, which just continues to beg the question, are two different companies booking Raw and SmackDown? Because it doesn't make sense that the same company is producing both shows. But we started off with a quick Martin Luther King video package, because I think it was Martin Luther King Day in the US. I'm Canadian, so I don't really know too much about, well, I live in Canada, so I don't really know too much about that. But yeah, it's not really part of the show, but I guess it's a holiday in America, so fair enough. They played a nice little promo package for him. Promo package as if he's gonna be facing fucking Fiend at WrestleMania. But the proper version of the show started out with a Randy Orton promo. He was wearing like a luchador mask, and he was cutting a promo. He was talking about how when you fight fire with fire, you end up with ashes, and typically the ashes of the person you fought fire with, or something like that. He mentioned how the voices in his head have never been louder. He mentioned how 3 weeks ago he showed a side of him that he never knew existed, which was compassion, when he didn't light Alexa Bliss on fire. And this left him with pure hatred towards himself, which he attempted to redirect last week to Triple H, who, by the way, we have no idea if he's alive or not, so thank you, WWE. He tried to redirect the pure hatred he had for himself towards others until Bliss interrupted last week. I think he said something about like the memory of the feeling of his burning flesh. Like that'll never go away, the memory of that feeling, I guess. He said he's wearing the mask not only to protect himself, but everyone from the horror that he endured. But he doesn't blame Alexa, he blames the Fiend. The Fiend is responsible, Alexa was only the vehicle, and the Fiend wants to stop Randy from achieving the inevitable, which is him winning the Rumble. I guess I should have noted that Randy is in a dark room with only like one light on him that's kind of faint. And he's near a screen. He's in a ring. There's a screen beside him where he kind of looks towards, or the camera pans to whenever it's recapping stuff. So like when he was talking about the compassion thing, it showed him with the match and Alexa, stuff like that. When he said Fiend wants to stop him from achieving the inevitable, it showed footage of him winning the 2009 and 2017 Royal Rumble matches. He says he knows everybody in the locker room enjoyed what happened to him last week, but nothing can stop Randy from winning the Rumble. He's still going to be in the Royal Rumble despite the pain, because you could cut off all of his limbs and nothing would stop him from winning this year's Royal Rumble. In fact, he enjoys the pain. It's what fuels his every move, and everybody should thank the Fiend when he burns their dreams of heading to Mania when he wins the Rumble. Then he lights a match and then blows it out, and that's the end of the promo. Another thing, the makeup team, I guess, did a pretty good job, I think, of applying kind of like the burn marks to his face. His nose was, noticeably red. He under his eyes, the parts that you could see through the mask, they looked like he had been burned fairly severely. So credit to the makeup team for that. Overall, though, I'm kind of split with this promo. I like I like that they're going kind of down a darker path with Randy after having encountered the Fiend, because the Fiend ends up, changing everybody except for Goldberg, because Goldberg only has one version of himself, so he can't be changed. But everybody else who the Fiend has like fully gone against, has ended up changing in some capacity. So I like that they're going down a darker path and they're pushing the darkness of Randy Orton, having him be more sadistic and stuff like that. The mask, I'm kind of 50-50 on, but it might grow on me. It might not. I don't know. We'll see. But for the most part, I didn't really dislike this too much. I didn't think it was anything too spectacular. You know what? I kind of liked it, I guess. The mask was probably the thing that I was kind of like iffy on, because he's wearing a luchador mask. If he was wearing another mask, I might have been more okay with it. But overall, not a bad way to start off Raw. It was a fairly lengthy promo. He had like 10 minutes. Granted, it was pretty taped and then edited together. It wasn't a live promo, but it was like a 10-minute start to the show, which was just that promo. So not the worst way to start the show. The overall theme of what they're doing with that promo, I enjoy. It's just maybe a different type of mask they could have used to cover him up, I guess, after the awful end to last week's show. Then they had an earlier tonight segment showing Ric Flair and Lacey Evans arriving. An interviewer comes and asks them to clarify their relationship. Lacey takes offense to that, doesn't let Ric speak at all. Puts over Rick, dirtiest player in the game, world champion, Hall of Famer, this, that, and says that as for the, state of their relationship, she's just learning from him, kind of thing. Then we had Charlotte versus Peyton Royce. Peyton attacked Charlotte during the entrance. Heel trying to get some heat and trying to get some momentum against a babyface, or someone who you'd, think is the babyface, but maybe not, given what happens later. Rick randomly comes out, his music plays, he comes out mid-match, and just comes out there, and then he, notions towards the stage, inviting Lacey onto the stage, who comes out in a Flair robe. This distracts Charlotte, obviously. Charlotte turns around from the distraction into Peyton's finish, I believe. The big kick thing where she turns into it, and it's, I don't know what it's called, but I think that's her finish, or at least one of her finishing moves. And then she kicks out, she kicks out of that. And then I think they went to commercial. When they came back from commercial, Rick and Lacey just kind of fucked off. They just weren't there anymore. So it's what was the point of just coming out there? If you really want to mess with Charlotte, just stay at ringside and keep messing with her the whole match, instead of just a 2-second cameo in the middle of the match and then fucking off backstage and never being seen for the rest of the night. If I remember correctly, it was just a weird way to advance the Lacey, Ric Flair, and Charlotte stuff that they're doing for me. Charlotte actually had a moment where I think Peyton was on the apron and she attacked Peyton. Peyton falls to the outside. Charlotte screams up the ramp, telling Lacey to come out and get in the ring kind of now. Charlotte works the knee for the rest of the match, locks in the figure eight, makes Peyton tap, and then holds on to the figure eight after the bell is rung, to which I immediately thought, hey, what a babyface thing to do. You know what I mean? You're the good guy. You hold the move after you've won and inflict unnecessary damage. Yeah, that's what a face does, right? No, not at all. And the commentary team were trying to sell it oh, she's had enough of what Lacey's doing. Who the fucking cares? You won the match. That's not my biggest concern with this. My biggest concern, although Peyton looked good and she was able to get in some pretty good offense, she had a lot of good striking maneuvers, some good striking sequences, some good grappling maneuvers. They did make her look good in the loss. Why did she have to lose? That's my biggest concern. Because now her getting the distraction win 2 weeks ago in the tag match doesn't really mean anything, because they just went ahead and reversed it. You know what I mean? They if they wanted to have, Charlotte, because I think this is them teasing the Charlotte heel turn. They've been teasing it since she came back, but I think this might be like full-fledged teasing it, and like we're starting to get into that point where it's going to be more and more teased until they finally pull the trigger on the turn. If you wanted to have the figure eight stuff after the pin, just reverse the decision so you can give Peyton the win. You know what I mean? And then Charlotte, although she won the physical altercation, she has a loss on her record, which then gives you leeway to make another match, and then you can put Peyton over again, and by having Lacey just fully interfere, and then whatever. Because let's be honest, Charlotte's winning the Rumble. They're doing Charlotte and Asuka at WrestleMania for the women's title because they don't believe in Asuka for whatever reason. Asuka is the best woman they have on the roster, probably. So I don't know why they don't believe in her. Maybe it's a Kevin Dunn thing because she can't speak English properly. It's not her first language, which, by the way, Kevin Dunn's awful. We'll get to that later because he made some dumb decisions later in the night. But yeah, the match quality was fine. I mean, they're both good. Charlotte's, world class, and then Peyton's just steadily improving. She's already good, but she's steadily improving. So the match quality was fine for a TV match and the time that they were given. It was a weird choice of how they advanced the Lacey stuff. It's weird how they are just not doing Asuka and Charlotte anymore for the past 2 weeks. That just hasn't been a thing. It's easy to forget that they're the tag team champions. It's just not, it doesn't make sense. Really, it doesn't make sense why they would have come out for the entrance in her robe and then they fuck off, and then when you're back from commercial, there's just no explanation kind of thing. Like, I don't really know what they were doing with that. I don't really like that they had Peyton take the loss. You know what I mean? You're having Charlotte take some pins because of this interference. Just build Peyton. Peyton was supposed to get a singles push when they broke up the Iconics, and then they took that away from her. And then, just push Peyton. She's fucking good. Give her fucking wins, and then position her for a championship run in the future. But they're not. I don't know why. So yeah, that overall segment I didn't really like too much. But it is what it is. Then we had a Hurt Business and Matt Riddle back. Just Riddle, because apparently Matt Riddle is fucking, I don't know. Backstage segment between Hurt Business and Riddle. Riddle says something about taking the high road, where Shelton says, "Yeah, I bet you do," or "Yeah, I believe that," or something like that. Because get it, Riddle's a stoner. Yep, that's a good gimmick. Riddle mentions how he likes their outfits, like how they dress all suits and stuff. He likes their swag, he said. Then he gives them all nicknames based off Wolf of Wall Street and inspired nicknames or some shit like that. Eventually, he calls Bobby Lashley Sloppy Bobby or something like that, to which he gets upset. The rest of Hurt Business get upset. Lashley's like, no, guys, don't worry, I can handle this. They kind of leave. Lashley's like, you know what, Riddle, I actually kind of like your flip-flops. And then Riddle's like, oh, thanks. He's like, but I hear they're bad for your feet. He's like, no, they're fine. And then Lashley stomps on his foot. He very clearly missed. Whoever was operating the camera was panning the camera a bit too far down, and you could see one of Riddle's feet, and then the other one was off camera, but you could see, based on the way he was standing, where the other foot would be positioned, and where Lashley stomped was right dead in the middle of between his legs. So it's like he didn't hit his foot. But yeah, he stomped his foot, and then Lashley was like, oh, my foot, I'm going to shove it up your ass later, or something like that, because there's a six-man later on involving them. Then we go to commercial, we come back, and Lucha House Party and Riddle are backstage in the doctor's room. Lucha House Party are wondering if he's good for their match later. He tells some anecdote about high school. He says he'll be fine. Then they showed an Ali, Mustafa Ali, earlier today promo where he talks about Kofi being home with a broken jaw isn't enough. He wants to break Kofi's heart and spirit by hurting someone he loves, which is Woods. He hopes Kofi misses the Rumble, misses Chamber, misses Mania, so he can feel how Ali felt 2 years ago when someone was taking something from him. Obviously, Ali was meant to be in the gauntlet in Kofi's spot, got hurt. Kofi took the spot. Kofi Mania took off. Thank fuck, because he deserved it. That WWE title win was long overdue, and I'm really happy he had it. Even though you have to be sad for Ali, where you're in this good position and it gets taken away. But granted, he's a heel now, so he can use it. Right, so a little earlier today promo, it wasn't an official WWE promo. I think it was just Ali doing it on his own. Ali does a lot of really, really well done self-shot promos, which I wish they would use more of. But anyways, this was in the preview to a singles match between Xavier Woods and Mace of Retribution, of course. Before the match started, Ali was in the ring insulting Woods. Woods punched Ali. Mace goes to charge Woods. Ali holds him back. We go to commercial. We come back. The match is starting. There was a cool spot where Woods went for the honor roll, and on his way up for it, he got goozled. I thought that was just a cool little visual. Near the end of the match, Mace is standing on the apron. Woods baseball slides through his legs, hits Ali. And then Slapjack and T-Bar on the outside kind of react. Ali gets up and he tells them, now go do it. They surround the ring. And then after a super kick by Woods, Mace hits his finish. It looked kind of botched and wins the match against Woods. Ali then says into the camera that Retribution says get well soon to Kofi. Retribution picking up another win is good. Woods as a singles guy does not need a win. That's fine. This is building up to Ali versus Kofi, which could be a really, really good singles match, which is where I hope they're going with this. I hope they're going the singles route because, we have all the time in the world to do New Day stuff. Ali versus Kofi could be a really, really great singles match. Maybe at Mania, that would be nice. So I like what they're building to. So overall, I'm not too upset with this. There was no Mia Yim there. What's her? Reckoning is her Retribution name, I think. She wasn't there this week. I don't know why. Maybe they just tried to limit the amount of people there who weren't particularly needed in the segment for COVID stuff. Maybe she just couldn't make it, or maybe they're putting her back in NXT or something. I don't really know. She wasn't there. So that's what it was. But a Retribution member getting a win for Retribution. So basically what they're doing with Retribution is giving them wins, which is what they should have done when they debuted them instead of having them lose every week. So yeah, WWE creative. Always a little bit too late. And by a little bit, I mean a lot late. But yeah, this wasn't too bad. The match itself was fine. It was short, so they didn't really get too much time to fuck with too much. But I like them teasing and starting off the build to Kofi and Ali. They had an Asuka backstage interview where she was asked what she expects on Alexa's Playground because she's going to be on Alexa's Playground. She says, I don't know. Hopefully not her dark side. And then that's it. Then I think, went to commercial. We came back. We had the WrestleMania report, which is their announcement of the next 3 Manias, which if you haven't seen it, it's incredible. Triple H is in a newscaster's wig, pretending to be a newscaster along with Steph. And then there's just cameos by people. It's really good. Go watch it. It's genuinely funny. I enjoyed it. Then we came back and we had Alexa's Playground. Alexa addresses Randy, says that last week she just wanted to talk, but things got heated. If he needs suggestions for sunblock, she's got him covered. Tonight she has this very special guest, introduces Asuka. And then Asuka comes in, tries to sit on the empty swing seat beside Alexa. Alexa says, don't, that's not your seat. Asuka is like, oh, sorry. Alexa to the seat is like, oh, are you okay? Asuka's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. Alexa's like, I wasn't talking to you. Asuka's like, okay, I'm going to just head over here okay, I'm gonna head over here, and then goes to a different spot in the ring. Alexa declares for the Rumble. She has a mini conversation between the swing seat, whether or not they want to announce it or if she does. She realizes, or Asuka wishes her good luck. She's like, hey, if I win, I could face you at WrestleMania. Asuka's like, oh yeah, that would be an honor. I'm a big fan. And then Alexa's like, oh really? Thank you. That's cool. And then Asuka ended up saying yowie wowie, which Alexa was not too happy with, and she apologizes to the empty swing seat, saying that Asuka wasn't supposed to say that. Asuka notices the mood's kind of down. She's like, okay, music. Her music plays. She's dancing. Alexa's like, don't. And then she gets up angrily and she's like, stop. They have a little stare down. And then Alexa turns around to the swing seat and she's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It's just, it wasn't supposed to be this way. If I did the things the right way, you'd still be here. Asuka tries to console her by saying the Fiend is still here. And Alexa says, don't say his name. Then she starts waving at the rocking horse in the corner, which was very clearly based on the camera position being played with off camera by somebody, because the camera just conveniently cut off like a quarter of the horse, so somebody was just playing it, obviously, but what are you gonna do? Asuka is creeped out and fucks off, and then Alexa goes and sits on the horse. I'm fine with Alexa's portion of this. They've had the little moments of Alexa talking to the empty swing set before. This time they fully went into it, and stuff like that, and really made it clear. I wonder if that's meant to be Bray, or if that's just kind of like an imaginary friend that she created to replace Bray while he's gone, or the Fiend, I guess. So I'm interested to see what the backstory behind that is. One thing I don't like about this, though, is that Asuka was genuinely scared of the situation. I don't really like Asuka being scared of anything, because Asuka's pretty much a walking weapon, and that's how she should be booked. So I don't like being cautious and like creeped out and like whatever is fine, because I think anybody can be that, because you have to sell the whole Fiend gimmick, right? Obviously you have to sell it, but I don't like Asuka specifically being like scared of the situation. I don't like that. Being cautious, being like kind of weirded out, like, okay, this is kind of off, whatever. But Asuka, who could beat anybody's ass on the roster, on the women's roster, tiptoeing around Alexa, who's like really small, I just, you know what I mean? It just doesn't make Asuka look that great. It puts over the gimmick. It's just, maybe don't have Asuka be the one to do that. Maybe have somebody else be the one to do that, because Asuka should be somebody who's not afraid of anybody on the roster, especially because she's women's champion. But it is what it is. Overall, I'm happy with the segment, I guess, just because, we get more Alexa Bliss doing some of the best work of her career. She's doing some really good character work. The promos are good. The facials are good. The timing of what she's doing is good. And she's really selling the whole Fiend universe character, so I'm liking that. But once again, just a complaint is that Asuka should not be terrified of anything, for me personally, so I didn't like that portion of it. Then we had a Miz and Morrison quick backstage interview where they are asked what to expect from the dirt sheet. They say no spoilers, but it will be controversial. There is a Nia and Shayna backstage promo where Shayna talks about submitting Mandy last week and throwing her over the top rope or some shit, says she's going to do the same to anybody, doesn't matter who it is, even Nia in the Rumble. And then Nia's like, oh really? Oh, you're just gonna throw me out? You don't give a fuck about me? Okay, so I don't need to carry you, blah blah blah. You don't carry shit, brother, except for the fucking realization that you're dragging down Shayna Baszler, okay? And then they bicker on the way to the ring. Shayna's like, bro, you got to start bickering with me now? Like, I got a match, brother. And And then we went to commercial. We came back. Double J, Jeff Jarrett, predicted that Goldberg was winning the WWE Championship at Royal Rumble. The year is 2021. Fuck off, Vince McMahon. Then we had Mandy versus Shayna. Nia was on commentary. And on commentary the whole time, they were basically talking about the partnership between Shayna and Nia going into the Rumble, how it wasn't really too perfect, along with Nia dunking on Byron Saxton a lot. Shayna did some joint manipulation stuff leading up to the finish, and then she submitted Mandy Rose. After the match, Shayna and Nia were bickering again as they were leaving ringside, and Dana attacked them after the match, as a babyface typically does, which, yeah. I like that Shayna's getting a win. That's fine. Completely fine with me. I feel like I've seen this match 4 weeks in a row. That's not fine with me. I don't like Dana attacking them after the match because she's a face. So, like, Shayna winning is a positive. Other than that, there wasn't really any positives there, you know what I mean? And again, it's just the same match over and over again, so it's just, They go to commercial after that. They come back from commercial. There's a backstage interview with Nia and Shayna about how they're not getting along, and they respond like, yeah, we're not getting along, but I mean, like, look at the tag team champions. Asuka's dealing with fucking Alexa, and then Charlotte's dealing with Lacey going out with her dad. Like, yeah, we're not getting along, but neither are the tag team champions. And then Shayna suggests that it's the perfect time to get their rematch that they never got. And then Nia's like, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea. And then they go off screen. Yeah. That might not be a bad idea to Nia, but having Nia Jax on programming is a bad idea in general. So we'll just move on from there. Then there was a Charlotte interview where she was asked about how uncomfortable she is with the whole Lacey Evans, who is married and has a daughter, by the way, which they've shown on television. So I don't know why they're trying to put this gimmick over of her trying to date Charlotte's dad. It doesn't make any sense. Once again, Raw, SmackDown's good, Raw is not. She was asked about how uncomfortable she is with Lacey and Rick, and then she goes off on talking about how she's been accused her whole life of living off her last name, but now Lacey is actually trying to. Lacey is using Rick to get to Charlotte, but Charlotte has learned from the dirtiest player in the game her whole life. She just never used that information, that knowledge that she'd learned, but maybe it's time to change that. You don't need to have Charlotte Flair in a I don't need my dad storyline in 2021. She's a Grand Slam champion, which you forced for no reason because you're not even doing anything with those tag titles now. She's a multi-time champion. She's probably going to beat Ric Flair's world title record with the women's titles just because you give her like 5 title reigns a year and don't let anybody else get over. You don't need to have, I don't need my dad. I can prove myself. You did it like 4 or 5 years ago. You don't need to do it again. Charlotte is a established star in the women's division. You don't need her to prove herself. She already has overextensively done so because you fucking book her down our throats because you don't give anybody else on the roster a chance. Case in point, Peyton Royce earlier. You know what I mean? Like, just fuck off with this. Fuck off with this. Ric Flair on television 2021, we don't need. Lacey Evans, who has been shown on television with her husband and child dating a fucking like 70-year-old dude. How old is Ric Flair now? 60, 70? Not needed. Charlotte Flair proving herself in 2021. Not needed. This whole angle, not fucking needed. Fuck off. There was a SmackDown recap. Once again, don't fucking cross-promote the brands. They are competing with each other. That is the essence of the brand split. Please don't promote the other brand's stuff on your brand. You are just driving your viewers to that brand, and that is especially true for Raw, because if I'm on Raw, watching Raw 3 hours, by the way, every week, fucking kill me. If I'm watching Raw, and you remind me of how good SmackDown is during Raw, that makes Raw worse, and that makes me want to watch it even less. Don't promote the other fucking brand. Okay. Then we had an Adam Pearce and Ricochet backstage segment from Gorilla, where Ricochet has a match with AJ, and he's told that if he wins the match, he can earn a spot in the Rumble. Ricochet thanks Adam Pearce for the opportunity. AJ shows up. He's like, hey, don't take advice from Pearce. You know, he chickened out of a WWE title match. Yeah, he would have gotten his ass beat, but, you know, at least, you know, go and, you know, take the WWE title match. He has no dignity. Ricochet, for some reason, brings up a Drew Barrymore film. I don't know why. Maybe don't let Ricochet cut promos and just let him go in the ring, because like in the ring, you know, he can do some pretty cool stuff. On the mic, not so much. But basically the whole movie shit that was very awkward and was misplaced. And they're doing a weird thing with AJ where they're like having AJ do comedy stuff that just kind of makes him look kind of dumb. Because he mentioned how that Drew Barrymore film was like in his top 5 with The Notebook or some shit like that. I don't really like that for AJ, but that's whatever. Basically, the point of his stupid movie analogy or whatever was that he says how AJ got embarrassed at TLC, which AJ again says was Miz's fault. I don't know why they're not paying off this AJ and Miz stuff. Maybe they want to do it at the Elimination Chamber or something. I don't really know. It's whatever. Ricochet says that AJ is going to need more than a 7-foot dude at ringside to stop him. And then during Ricochet's entrance, they cut back to Gorilla, where AJ tells Adam Pearce he doesn't like him. He's starting to not like him, and if he doesn't like him, almost like steps up to him and then stares down at him. And then they go to commercial. Like, why are you teasing Omos and Adam Pearce? Like, or are you teasing AJ and Adam Pearce? Adam Pearce is not a competitor. They did the bait and switch on SmackDown. He's not a competitor. Like, why are they doing AJ and Omos and Pearce beef? What's the point of that? There's no reasoning for it. But anyways, we get to AJ versus Ricochet, and the match itself was one of my highlights of the night. There was an Omos spot kind of early on where Ricochet goes for a diving crossbody, I think is what I would call it, by like springboarding over to the outside. AJ ducks, Omos catches him. The ref is like, hey, put him down, and Omos just drops him. He doesn't like lightly put him down. He just releases and like kind of deadweights him down. Almost every week is being more and more vocal from ringside, you know, shouting encouragement to AJ. I'm liking that. So it allows some growth with the Omos character. Ricochet reversed the German suplex, baby, which I was very upset with, but he more than made up for it by fucking backflipping into a deadlift German suplex, baby, later in the match, which was fucking insane. And I fucking lost my mind. There was a phenomenal forearm reversed into a code breaker, which I think Ricochet's version is called the recoil, but I wasn't too sure, so I just said codebreaker because, you know, Jericho kind of made it famous a little bit. The finishing sequence was crazy. AJ did one of the things where you get them in position for a suplex, you lift them up, and then you throw them forward so they land on their stomach and stuff, right? He did it onto the ropes so that he kind of like hot-shotted Ricochet onto the ropes, stomach first from the suplex position, and then Ricochet bounced off the ropes into position for a Styles Clash, and then AJ hit the Styles Clash and won. Ricochet looked really good in this match. I think it elevated his stock fairly, you know, well. It doesn't make sense how the Ricochet and Retribution stuff is just kind of done, though. Like, it makes sense from a please make it stop, I'm tired of seeing the same match every week perspective, but he lost to everybody. Then when they're like, hey, join us, he's like, nah, fuck off. And then that was the end. So like you had him lose the feud, but like you kind of played it off as if he won because he told them to fuck off when they were like, hey, join us. It doesn't really make sense, but you know what? We got a great AJ versus Ricochet match out of it, so I'm really happy about it. I think what they might do next week is do Ricochet versus Drew Gulak. to have somebody win the spot, because Drew Gulak faced AJ last week and then Ricochet faced AJ this week for, a spot in the Rumble. So that would be good. And if they really want to put Ricochet or Drew Gulak over, for that matter, maybe have them fight for number 1 spot or something like that, and then they can last half an hour, 40 minutes in the Rumble, and then get eliminated, kind of thing. If you really want to elevate them, that Iron Man spot in the Rumble, where a number 1 or a number 2 or even a number 3 or number 4 lasts like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour in the match, that really elevates somebody's stock. Regardless of where they are in the card. If they're lower mid card, they're immediately upper mid card because of that, just because you lasted that long in the Rumble. So if they really wanted to kind of hot shot Ricochet up the card, because he's fairly low on the card with how they've booked him, if they wanted to hot shot him up the card, they could do that and have him kind of Iron Man the Rumble. I don't think he should win the Rumble, but they could have him Iron Man it and put him over. AJ winning was probably the right call. It's one of those cases where the loser is put over anyways, because you had a great match with a great top level guy. Took him close to his limit, kind of thing. So yeah. Then we had the dirt sheet, which Miz and Morrison promoted as the biggest addition in history, with someone we all know and love. It's 2021. Go fuck yourself, Vince McMahon. They introduce Goldberg, and it is Gilbert. He comes out. He does what the Gilbert character does, which is mock the absurdity of Goldberg's character. He's like, "Oh, I headbutted the door. Everything's flowing. Blood's thrown through. Wow, I can't speak. Blood's flowing through my veins. I headbutted the door, blow smoke out my nose, and fire out my ass," kind of thing. Then Drew Music's McIntyre hits. Is that what I was about to say? Drew McIntyre's music hits, and out comes, I think, the guy from Numbers. I don't know if y'all ever watched the show Numbers, but in high school math class, when we had like days off, we would just kind of watch Numbers. David Krumholtz, I think, is the actor's name. I'm pretty sure he came out as the fake Drew McIntyre. His wig almost fell off during the entrance, which actually kind of popped me. And then he comes in, cuts the typical promo about beating Goldberg. Morrison interrupts him to critique his Scottish accent. And then he asks, the actor that is, David Krumholtz, I'm going to assume, it looked like him. It looked a lot like him. He's like, "Oh, okay, do you want to cut? Do you want to do it again?" Miz is like, what do you mean, pal? We're live. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't hear the director. We can just do another one." And then Miz is like, "Morrison, where'd you get this guy?" Morrison's like, "New Jersey." Miz is like, "Oh, man, I told you the best actors are from New York, LA, and Cleveland." Morrison's like, "Cleveland? What are you talking about, Cleveland? Nothing good ever came out of Cleveland." Miz is like, "Oh, come on, like, what are we doing here? Like, Gilbert?" And then, Morrison's like, "You're making this awkward, man. This is a great idea." Miz is like, "This is an awful idea." Morrison's like, "This is gold." Miz is like, "This is silver at best." You know what I mean? They bicker and stuff. Gilbert stops him. He's like, "Guys, come on." And then he does that blah thing where he mocks, Goldberg being Goldberg. And then they both tell him to shut up. Morrison says, "Get back on your mark." They're like, "Do you want to do the thing?" "All right." Miz is like, Morrison, is Goldberg going to lose at Royal Rumble?" "Yep." "Is Drew going to lose at Royal Rumble?" "Yep." "How can that be? If two people are in the match, how can both lose? You're going to cash in your Money in the Bank." "Correct. Because I'm the Miz and I'm next." I have mixed feelings about the segment. I did laugh at some of the stuff. I think, I do want Morrison to do more serious stuff and be pushed seriously, because he can have great matches, be more intense and stuff. But to his credit, he can be very funny, and he was in this segment multiple times. I think Gilbert did well as well, and I think David Krumholtz of Numbers fame, and I think other stuff like Law and Order and maybe some fucking holiday themed films or some shit like that. I think he did fine enough. His ass crack was out though, so that was kind of uncomfortable. It got to the point where Phillips on commentary was like, "Dude, I'm begging you, pull up your pants." Like, it was actually kind of funny in an unintentional way, I think. Excuse me. But yeah, Mixed opinions. I don't know how I feel about them doing this kind of stuff to promote the WWE title match. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. It was fine for what it was. It's just maybe not, fitting for that spot. I was kind of confused about the cash in. Is he saying that he's going to cash in after the match, or is he saying that he's cashing in ahead of time to make it a triple threat? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know what the implication was, because it wasn't really made too clear, because it's like, hey, you're both going to lose because I'm going to cash in my money in the bank. But it's like, you said, how can two people lose one match? That means you're making it a triple threat. So are you cashing in beforehand? Are you cashing in during? Or are you cashing in after? So that was kind of unclear, but it doesn't really matter. It's good to see that Gilbert is, because apparently he had a heart attack in like November. So it's good to see that he's, in good health. He looked in good health. So that was a positive. Yeah, overall dirt sheet was kind of hit and miss for me. But yeah. David Krumholtz ass crack, brother. All right, let's move on. Then we had Hurt Business versus Lucha House Party. The Lucha House Party and Matt Riddle, against the Hurt Business. The face team might as well just have not been there. It might as well have been a broomstick in the ring, because this was all Hurt Business stuff. Cedric started the match telling Shelton and Lashley to get out. Shelton and Lashley looked very annoyed. Cedric did a big move early on and then started yelling, "That's how you do it," staring down Shelton. Shelton has his hand extended for the tag. Lashley's like, "Tag him in." Cedric doesn't do it. Cedric tries to tag out later as he's getting tired, and they ignore him. Shelton ignores him. Lashley's like, "Go fight, dude. Fuck off." Shelton tags himself in off of Cedric, and then tags in Lashley. Cedric later on tags in off Lashley. Then Shelton tags in. Then Cedric tags back in. They get in each other's face, and Shelton pushes Cedric out of the ring. They go to commercial. There's a spot in the match where Riddle has a hot tag where he sends Shelton into the corner, goes and attacks Lashley on the apron, and Lashley, this is a minor detail, but I really enjoyed it. Lashley, instead of getting hit off the apron, Lashley kind of, took the brunt of the hit and then swung back as Riddle was shooting off into the corner where Shelton was. So I like that they're building. I like the little things that they do to build somebody up a certain way. Because when you want this guy who is meant to be the walking apocalypse, he can't get hit down off the apron, off a hot tag. And he didn't. So it puts him over as being this big, beefy fucking dude who's gonna kill you and you can't touch him kind of thing. So they're really putting Lashley over. I really hope that it's him who takes the title off Drew down the line as the monster heel. Anyway, that was just a small little detail that I thought was cool. Another note, Shelton Benjamin is still just so fucking good. He's just such a good wrestler, man. Like, this far into his career, obviously he's not doing all the more, athletic, not high flying, but like more, explosive movement stuff that he would do when he was younger, earlier in his career, especially because he's bulked up since then. But like, he's just still so fucking good. Like, they've had him back for like 3 years and they just didn't do anything until recently. Like, it boggles my mind. Shelton has Grand Metalik beat. He brings him into the corner. Cedric tags in, does a brain buster, then gets in Shelton's face. And then him and Shelton start kind of, arguing. And Lashley's like, "Man, I've had enough of this." Tags in, hits Riddle off the apron. Call back, his receipt to the Riddle hot tag. Turns around, spears Metalik into another universe, picks him up, hurt lock. Metalik submits, and then they get the win. Cedric and Shelton are arguing after the match. Lashley tries to break them up. Riddle comes in, hits Lashley with a knee, and then gets out while Cedric tries to stop him. And then Cedric blames Shelton for the post-match hit and run by Riddle. And then they continue to bicker after the match, and there's more tension brewing. Now, I like that they're making Cedric stand out and being different, because Cedric is a younger guy. He's not as experienced. He's going to have that chip on his shoulder. Shelton has experience. Lashley has experience. MVP has experience. That part makes sense. The young guy thinks he's invincible, thinks he's better than he is, thinks he can do it all on his own, causes friction with the more experienced guys. That all makes sense. I think they're going too hard on it, and I think they are going to pull the trigger too early. There's still so much more you can do with Lucha House Party. With the Hurt Business, I haven't slept. There's so much more that you can do with the Hurt Business. They're one of the best things going on Raw. Granted, it's slim pickings, but still. I like that they're building the tension. They're just going a little bit too fast with the tension being built. I feel like the tension should be a lot more subtle while they're still on top. I feel like when they eventually lose the tag titles and then try and gain them back, that's when Cedric should be going really full on, oh, this is you, Shelton, this is you, you can't hang, you're past it, I'm the guy, right? I think that's when they should be going full in on the tension, not right now when they're the tag team champions still, because you're building up all this tension for who to take the titles. Lucha House Party aren't built up enough to win the tag titles. And then there's no other tag teams on the division, so in the roster. So, like, why are you building the demise when there's nobody to reap the rewards of the demise? You know what I mean? So I think they're going a little bit too fast with the tension and stuff. I'd like to see them tone it down, kind of thing. You know, in a couple months when Shelton and Cedric lose those tag titles, then have Cedric really go in on Shelton, being like, "Listen, man, I'm Prime Alexander. You're way past your prime. You can't even see your prime looking in the rearview mirror, brother. You are past it. You are slowing me down. I'm too good for you," kind of thing. And then you can break Cedric off. But for now, just keep them together, keep the tension at a subtle level. For me, would be better for the long-term slow burn of it. But you know, it's WWE. They love pulling the trigger too early or too late, never on time. So, yeah. Then we had an Elias and Jackson Riker backstage thing, talking about the misunderstanding last week. Elias, for some fucking reason, I don't know why. He first of all, he said, like, hey, when I said don't get involved, I meant, like, you know, quote unquote, don't get involved, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And then for some reason, I don't really even remember the context at this point, Elias mentioned Thomas the Tank Engine, and like, as out of place as it was in the promo, I popped just because Thomas the Tank Engine is just such a peculiar fucking reference to make on a wrestling show. Like, fucking incredible. Riker says he's going to finish what Elias started last week against Jeff Hardy tonight and show Jeff Hardy what the universal truth is by beating it into him. And before they leave the locker room, Riker's like, just to make sure you're not getting involved this week, right? And Elias is just like, just go. Let's just go. You know what I mean? Then we had a Drew promo that he would have filmed himself, I guess, and sent in. He's in his weight room. He benches 4 plates. I'm going to assume that's a lot because dude's jacked. I'm not a weightlifter. If any of y'all out there are really into the weightlifting, let me know if 4 plates is good for a bench press. He had this analogy of clowns and lions. He said, you know, WWE is so great because they have a little bit of everything for everybody. You get the clowns like Miz and Morrison, and then you get the lions, and sometimes they intermingle because of how WWE is set up, and the lions eat the clowns. You know, clever wordplay, fine. I'm fine with it. He went, and then he turns his attention to Goldberg and talks about how you should check his defense record because he doesn't miss. Randy Orton says hello. He beat you for the championship earlier this year. Maybe they're trying to erase that from our memories, but it's not erased from the history books. It's an official thing that happened. Maybe it was short-sighted and them being like, oh, let's do this, and then changing their mind because Vince McMahon, that's what he does, but whatever. And then he also announces that next week he'll be back on Raw. How much of an annoyance do you think it would be the 14-day quarantine period for Drew McIntyre is done. He goes to take his test and he's positive again after they've advertised him being there next week, and they would have to rebook the Rumble. How fucking shitty would that be? Let's hope that's not what happens. But yeah, Drew promo was okay, I guess. It was fine. It was what it was. It was a self-shot promo of a guy who has COVID, who can't be there to actually cut a promo. He also said he's still asymptomatic, so at least that's good. Then we had Jeff Hardy versus Jackson Riker. I mentioned on my most recent SmackDown review that they had these new cameras that were kind of jarring to me. They're kind of growing on me a little bit, and I've learned that they are NFL cameras. They're kind of growing on me a little bit. They used it for Ricochet's entrance earlier, and then they used it on Jeff Hardy's entrance tonight. So, yeah, they're starting to grow on me a little bit. They are still a little bit jarring, a tiny bit, maybe because they had the settings different on them a little bit over on SmackDown, but it looked a little bit more refined this week, so they're starting to grow on me, those cameras. Elias attacks Jeff while he's going up for a Swanton Bomb, causing a DQ. Riker gets up. He's like, hey, I said not to get involved. Elias was like, oh, man, I thought you meant not, quote unquote, get involved. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. As they're, and then Elias is like, he was going to hit the Swanton. Nobody kicks out of it. And Riker's like, I could have. And then while they're arguing, Jeff Hardy does like a drop kick through the ropes to Elias, sending him flying on the outside. Tries to run off the ropes to do something to Riker, who hits him with a black hole slam. Awful. It doesn't really do much for Jeff. Jeff comes off looking pretty shit, really. He gets the win in his win-loss record, whatever, by DQ, but he comes out weak because he got beat down post-match kind of thing. And because he attacked the guy outside of the ring when the guy inside the ring was inside of the ring. Why are you focusing the guy outside of the ring? He's not a threat to you. The other guy is still... It doesn't make sense. They made Jeff look a little stupid and weak. They make Riker look very, very stupid, which I don't have a problem with. On the specific case that Riker is a piece of shit, and he shouldn't be on TV anyways because he's racist and all that, and blatantly racist. So that's pretty shit. But like from an objective standpoint of like the show and what you want to do with your characters, if you're trying to build up this effectively new character, it's a repackaged Riker because he's not Forgotten Sons Riker anymore. If you're trying to build up repackaged Riker, making him look like a fucking moron isn't how you book him properly. You're making Elias look like... You make all three people in this segment look bad. I don't understand what the fuck you're doing. Like, I really, really don't get it. But let's move on. We had Asuka versus Alexa Bliss main eventing, which is pretty cool. You know what I mean? The match happens. Asuka has the upper hand. Lights go out Fiend style, but with Alexa-themed sounds. And then we cut to black. And then we go to commercial. Kevin Dunn, after doing the fucking Fiend transformation spot with Alexa, cut to fucking commercial. And then not only did he cut to commercial, when they came back from commercial, instead of going directly into the match, they ran a Royal Rumble promo. This guy gets paid over $1 million a year to be incompetent. I feel like he has incriminating evidence on Vince McMahon or something that just keeps him employed, because his ability or lack thereof, rather, in a production role is just astounding. He's just void of any fucking competence in his role. I don't understand how he's like the head guy, the head producer in the company. Like, he has to have some sort of dirt on Vince McMahon that'll get Vince McMahon in some serious fucking trouble to be keeping his job and getting paid as much as he does, because he is awful. He is awful. But anyways, we get when we come back from the promo and the commercial and all that, we have this dark alter ego Alexa Bliss in the ring, standing kind of emotionless in the middle of the ring. Asuka was, scared and cautious, circling her. Then she started a barrage of strikes, which were blocked and ducked until eventually one got through. Alexa started doing some more, high impact, some punches to the face, some elbows to the face, like hard hitting stuff. Hard-hitting reversals or blocks of the strikes, because she was blocking strikes with her forearms and stuff like that. Eventually, she gets shot into the corner, and then she does the Bray Wyatt rope hang thing, where like he holds the ropes and he kind of arches his back and kind of does like the hanging backwards thing. She did that. She put her hand in the mandible claw shape and tried to put the mandible claw on Asuka. And then eventually she hit a Sister Abigail, pinning Asuka clean, 1, 2, 3. And then during the winning sequence, it reverted back to, happy or bright Alexa celebrating until she gets a super serious look on her face in the Fiend's voice, "Let me in," and then a serious look on Alexa's face to close off the show. Okay. Once again, they had Asuka be like terrified. I don't really like that too much. But being, cautious would have been good, because it's just alter ego Alexa, right? Now, my theory with this is that was the Fiend, right? Mandible claw, you know what I mean? Sister Abigail, the tree hang, the big old fucking punch, all that shit. My theory is that was the Fiend, using Alexa as like a vessel to kind of like get back in. So I don't mind Alexa winning, right? Asuka's the champion, and I know that. But if even if my theory is wrong about the Fiend using Alexa to, as a vehicle, as Randy would have said earlier, because Alexa was dressed in that dark shit last week. I'm pretty sure the all blacked out stuff. So theoretically, last week it was Bray who did it as well, right? If my theory is correct, which I'm not stating that it is, it's just obviously a theory. So if my theory is correct that Bray is the one, it obviously makes sense that the Fiend would have beat Asuka, right? So I don't have a problem with Asuka losing the match. She's the women's champion. It can set up a title match, but I don't think that's where they're going with it right now for the short term. Although Asuka does need a contender at Royal Rumble, and but anyways, even if it's not the Fiend taking Alexa, if it's Alexa gaining more and more power and developing her own Fiend, that's reason enough to have her beat Asuka as well. So typically I would probably be upset if like just happy-go-lucky, kind of kooky, Alexa beat Asuka, because she just doesn't have it in her wheelhouse, because bright pink overalls, kooky Alexa Bliss is Funhouse Bray. They're not there to win matches. They're soft. Their alter egos are there to win the matches. So if this is either A, what I think it might be, which is Fiend coming back through Alexa for the time being, or B, Alexa forming her own Fiend-like persona, either way, it makes sense that they would beat Asuka, because Asuka is a human being, right? And then the Fiend is not, for all intents and purposes, right? So I'm fine with the win for Alexa. I'm fine with it being clean, just based on that presumption that, it's a Fiend type thing. It's either the Fiend through Alexa or a new Fiend in accompaniment with the other Fiend, but specific to Alexa. So under those two circumstances, I'm okay with the clean win, right? And then Another thing that kind of fuels my theory is her turning back to happy-go-lucky and then saying, let me in, because it's kind of like she did let him in, literally, and then he killed Asuka for her, kind of thing, right? So I think that's where they're going with it, which makes it, obvious sense that Asuka would lose. So yeah, overall the show was not good. I didn't really like it. Not as bad as last week. Definitely an improvement on last week, but still not that great. They had kind of a common theme of tag teams not getting along the whole show. Miz and Morrison were arguing. Shayna and Nia, Hurt Business, like the whole night they kind of had the same theme going. They had a couple repeat matches that I didn't really like too much. They had the whole Charlotte and Peyton stuff. This just, yeah, it wasn't great, man. It really wasn't great. Once again, it wasn't as bad as last week for me. I think if I were to rate it out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 10, maybe a 3 out of 10, 3 or 4 out of 10. It was bad. But I mean, AJ and Ricochet was really good. I, for the most part, really liked the Alexa stuff. I was okay with the Randy stuff, and then other than that, it wasn't too great. Just based on like decisions they made. So I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 for this week's Raw. Not good by any means. Quite poor actually, and just a lot of things where you look and you're like, huh? Why are you doing it that way? Or why are you doing that at all? So yeah, I would say let's hope next week is better, but it won't be because it's fucking Monday Night Raw and it's just shit. But guess what? SmackDown on Friday should be good like it usually is. So I'm gonna look forward to that. Yeah, man, that's the end of the review. If you guys, I do some other stuff on the channel. If you want to go check that stuff out, some gameplay stuff. A couple links will be at the end cards at the end of the video. You can subscribe to the Patreon, like I said, if you would like to support me in the channel. First link in the description. If not, that's a-okay. Follow me on Twitter, link in the description. Also, be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode because YouTube likes to zuck your boy. And I'll put my videos in your sub boxes, so by pressing that nice old bell icon, you will get a push notification anytime I do upload, and you'll never have to miss it. Please sponsor my PC, of course. If you guys enjoyed the video and all that stuff, that's great. Let me know what you guys thought of the show down in the comments. Did you like Raw? Did you dislike Raw? Did you agree with some of the things I said? Did you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. I'm interested to see what you guys think. And yeah, man, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, share to, wow, once again, I haven't slept. Share it to all your friends. Like, subscribe, share to all your friends, comment down below, all that good shit. I can't remember my own outro, and I will see you guys next time.